Nigel, thank you. Well, it is lockdown that we are talking about and the concerns that various sectors really are facing. Agriculture and food processing is yet another area like that. Siraj Chaudhry of NCML now joins us to talk further about that. Siraj, hi. Well, last time also when we spoke, there are concerns when it comes to availability and movement of labor. Interstate transport barriers is yet another thing. But the financial assistance is something that all sectors are looking at. What is your sense when it comes to agriculture, food processing, procurement, harvest, etc.? What is the industry going through right now?
So, Manisha, good morning. First is that, yes, this industry has actually gained even more criticality in the current times when people are locked inside their homes and there is need for food, and therefore processed food becomes very important given that there is limitation on movement of food on a regular basis. Where the challenge is coming from is that this industry obviously is able to operate at the capacity that it is set up to operate given the limitations as you rightly described in terms of labor movement, and it's not just about the raw material but every element that goes into moving food safely. There is an extra responsibility on the industry also because whatever they are producing is actually going into homes, and therefore for it to be completely sanitized and safe becomes doubly important in a time when people are being extremely careful about what is getting in and out of their homes. I think the important part here is that we are also in the middle of a harvest season, which is typically the time when the industry actually stocks up or contracts a lot of raw material. And this is not just for cereals, but also for the perishables, the fruits and vegetables. There will be a need for working capital. And at this point, that is going to be deficit. So I think assistance in terms of funding, in terms of reducing the burden of loans, and some incentives in terms of getting the labor back, as well as I think there have been a long-standing debate on what should be the GST rate applicable on food processing, food products, packaged food products. I think those are areas that need to be reviewed because what is important is to recognize the fact that agriculture becomes food only through the food processing industry. And it is therefore important to keep this industry healthy because we don't know what the future ahead lies. But the issue is that we need to stay food secure and people need to be getting healthy and safe food inside their homes. And for that, supporting this industry at this juncture becomes very critical.
Siraj, the various ministries have been holding meetings with the relative sectors, and we do understand that the food ministry also has met people, people from various levels when it comes to food as a sector as well. What has been your representations and what is the kind of feedback that you're getting in from the ministry on all of these issues right now?
So the ministries that are involved in this are actually working very proactively. They are essentially, they are working very closely to ensure that prices remain under control because we do have a challenge of both not supply chain being disrupted. So you have a scenario for the producer getting low prices and the consumer paying high prices. And the Consumer Affairs Ministry has been very closely monitoring that progress. Similarly, there is a lot of grain movement that the government has encouraged. Fortunately, we are in a state today where we are surplus grain, and that is not a limitation. So it is really setting up, getting the supply chain set right, which has been disrupted, and that is facing major problems because of labor shortage and initial period of lack of understanding of what that value chain entailed. So when we talked about agriculture and food, we missed out the packaging material, the chemicals that go into running a plant, the whole labor movement, the transportation, the cold chain. All those areas were probably neglected, but I think there is significant awareness and work being done by the government because the criticality is not lost on anyone. It is just that how soon we can get that in place is important because what has happened is that the labor has moved back and getting them back and also being able to run these factories at a capacity which gets the demand to be met because it as if the producer is not there, it is not as if the factories are not there. Right. It is just that if you cannot run them full, you will not be able to produce the food that is needed.
Absolutely. Siraj, thank you so much for joining us. Really value those thoughts there. So yes, a lot of concerns there. There are factories, there is raw material, but there is no labor and the capacity is not just up to it.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Manisha, thanks so much for stopping by and giving us that quick update. Well, we've been lucky in the last 1 hour out for the bulls. The Nifty holding at around 9,000. We'll wrap up on halftime report, but you stay with us because Business Lunch comes up next.